Keanu Reeves walked through the busy streets of Los Angeles, keeping his head down. The cool autumn wind tugged at his black jacket, and the scent of roasted peanuts from a nearby vendor filled the air. He had just left a small charity event, one of those quiet gatherings where he could lend a hand without the cameras and flashing lights. Fame had never felt comfortable to him. He didn't mind being known, but he didn't like the attention that came with it. What he loved was helping people in small, quiet ways that actually mattered. As he walked, his hands stuffed into his pockets to keep them warm, he let his mind wander. He thought about life, about how fast things moved in a city like this. People were always rushing somewhere, caught up in their own worlds, barely noticing what was happening around them. The streets were alive with noise, car horns blaring, hurried footsteps tapping against the pavement, the distant sound of music playing from a street performer's guitar. And then, through all of that noise, he heard it. A small voice. "Excuse me, can you spare $1?" The words were quiet, almost swallowed by the city's chaos. But Keanu heard them. He stopped walking and turned toward the sound. Huddled against a brick wall was a little boy, no older than 10. His name was Caleb. His clothes were too big and covered in patches. The thin fabric barely protected him from the chilly autumn air. His small, dirt-streaked hands clutched a piece of cardboard with shaky handwriting that read, "Hungry and alone. Please help." Keanu's eyes met Caleb's. The boy's brown eyes were dull, tired, like he had already seen too much of the world's harshness. There was no spark of childhood left in them. For a moment, Keanu just stood there. The city around him blurred as if nothing else mattered in that instant. He had seen people struggling before, too many times. But something about Caleb hit him differently. Maybe it was the way the boy clung to his sign, or how his shoulders sagged under an invisible weight. Keanu took a step forward. He ignored the glances from people who were too busy to stop, too busy to care. He crouched down to Caleb's level. "Hey," he said softly, his voice gentle but steady. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated before answering in a small voice. "Caleb." He looked down at the cracked pavement, his fingers tightening around the straps of his crumpled backpack. It was old, torn at the edges. Keanu could tell it was all the boy had left in the world. "You out here by yourself?" Keanu asked, keeping his voice calm, not wanting to scare the kid. Caleb's lips trembled. He gave a small shrug. "My dad, he's gone. And my mom." His voice cracked. He swallowed hard before continuing. "She left me here. Said she'd come back, but she didn't." The words tumbled out, raw and jagged. Keanu felt something in his chest tighten. A child should never have to say those words. Keanu didn't care who was watching. He sat down right there on the cold sidewalk beside Caleb. "How long have you been out here?" he asked. "A few days, I think," Caleb said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know. I just get hungry and I don't know what to do." Keanu's mind raced. He had spent years in comfort, shielded from the kind of pain this boy was living through. But now, sitting next to Caleb, he couldn't ignore it. "What happened to your dad?" Keanu asked, sensing there was more to the story. Caleb's hands gripped his backpack straps tightly, his knuckles turning white. "He worked at a factory," the boy said. "There was an accident. Something broke, and he didn't make it." Caleb's voice shook with anger and grief. "They said it wasn't their fault," he continued. "But it was. They didn't fix things right. And then we had nothing." Keanu felt his jaw clench. "My mom tried," Caleb went on, his voice softer now. "She really did. But after Dad was gone, she started using stuff. She would leave for days. Then one day she just didn't come back." Silence hung between them. Keanu looked at Caleb, really looked at him. This kid had been abandoned, by his mother, by the system, by a world too busy to notice him. It wasn't fair. No child should have to go through this. "That's not right," Keanu said, more to himself than to Caleb. Caleb looked up at him, confused. "Why are you talking to me?" he asked. "Nobody else stops." Keanu gave him a small, kind smile. "Because sometimes all it takes is one person to listen," he said. "And you deserve better than this, Caleb. Way better." The boy blinked like he couldn't believe someone cared. Keanu knew in that moment that he couldn't just walk away. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a $20 bill, pressing it into Caleb's hand. The boy stared at it, holding it tight like it was a lifeline. But Keanu knew that money wasn't enough. "I'm not leaving you out here alone," Keanu said firmly. "We're going to figure this out together, okay?" Caleb hesitated. Then slowly he nodded. A tiny flicker of hope crossed his face. Keanu pulled out his phone. He knew someone who could help. He called Olivia, a friend he had known for years. She was a social worker, Someone who helped kids in need. She answered on the second ring. Keanu? Is everything okay? I'm with a kid named Caleb, Keanu said, glancing at the boy beside him. He's been out here alone for days. I need your help to get him somewhere safe. There was a pause, then Olivia's voice became serious. Give me 20 minutes. I'll come to you. As they waited, Keanu kept talking to Caleb, asking about his life, his favorite things. He wanted to keep the boy's mind off the cold, off the hunger, off the fear. Tell me about your mom, he said gently. Caleb hesitated. She used to be nice, he said softly. Before Dad, she used to sing to me at night. And she'd make me pancakes. The ones with chocolate chips. Keanu smiled. Chocolate chip pancakes are the best. Caleb nodded. Yeah. His voice was wistful, as if he was remembering a life that felt like a dream. Keanu sighed. He knew he couldn't fix everything, but he could do something. And sometimes, one small act of kindness could change everything. Soon Olivia arrived. She knelt down beside Caleb, her voice warm and kind. Hey Caleb. My name's Olivia. I work with kids who need a little help. Would you like to come with me? We'll get you some food, somewhere warm to sleep. Caleb looked up at Keanu, uncertain. Keanu nodded. She's a good person, Caleb. You can trust her. Slowly, Caleb stood. Olivia reached out her hand, and after a moment, Caleb took it. As they walked away, Caleb turned back to Keanu. Thank you, he whispered. Keanu smiled. Anytime, kid. As he watched them leave, he knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of something bigger. And sometimes all it took was one person to care. Caleb hesitated. His fingers traced the ripped edges of his backpack. My sister's name is Naomi, he said. She was really good at sewing. She made me a jacket once with little stars on it. I wore it until it fell apart. He smiled for a second, but then it faded. But after Dad died, she changed. She cried all the time. Then she started leaving. When she came back, she smelled weird. Sometimes she yelled. Then one day she just left me here. Keanu's heart felt heavy. He could picture Naomi, a girl who used to sew and take care of her little brother. But now she was lost, sad, and running away from her pain. Keanu wanted to remind Caleb of something happy. She didn't always leave you, right? He asked gently. Caleb nodded slowly. She used to sing to me at night. Silly little songs she made up. She said they would keep bad dreams away. His eyes filled with tears. He quickly wiped them away with his sleeve, embarrassed. I guess they stopped working. Before Keanu could say anything, a gray SUV stopped at the curb. A woman got out. She had short brown hair that looked golden in the fading sunlight. She knelt in front of Caleb with a warm smile. Hey Caleb. I'm Olivia, she said kindly. We're going to take you somewhere safe and warm, okay? Somewhere you can rest. Caleb looked at Keanu, unsure. You're coming too, right? He asked. Keanu nodded without a second thought. I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together. They drove to a shelter a few miles away. It was an old building with chipped paint, but the windows glowed warmly. Inside, Olivia got Caleb some food, a bowl of soup and a sandwich. Simple but hot. At first, Caleb ate slowly. Then he ate faster, like he hadn't had a real meal in a long time. Keanu watched him, feeling a tight knot in his chest. A kid shouldn't have to act like a sandwich was a special treat. He pulled Olivia aside. What happens next? He can't stay here forever. Olivia sighed, her eyes tired. We'll put him in the system. A temporary home while we figure out if he has any family. Keanu frowned. But you heard him. His mom is still out there. And she's not okay. Olivia nodded. Yeah. But finding her won't be easy. Keanu clenched his fists. And his dad, he said his company didn't pay anything after the accident. That's why they lost everything. Olivia sighed again. It happens all the time. Big companies cut corners. Someone dies. Then their lawyers cover it up. The family is left with nothing. I'll look into it, she said, but don't get your hopes up. Keanu's jaw tightened. He already knew life wasn't fair. But hearing how it crushed Caleb's family made him angry. That's not good enough, he said, his voice firm. This kid has no one because of it. I won't let this be the end of his story. Olivia raised an eyebrow. So you're not just going to drop off some money and walk away? Keanu shook his head. Not a chance. I have money. I have people I can call. If I don't use it for something like this, then what's the point? He looked at Caleb. The boy had finished eating and was staring at his empty bowl, like he couldn't believe he was full. He's been invisible for too long, Keanu said. That stops now. Olivia put a hand on his shoulder. Okay then. First, we keep him safe. Second, we find Naomi. She gave Keanu a small smile. You're in deep now, Reeves? Keanu met her eyes, his heart set on what needed to be done. Good, he said. That's where I need to be. He turned to Caleb, who looked up at him with tired eyes. You're not alone anymore, kid, Keanu said softly. I promise. That night, Keanu couldn't stop thinking about Caleb's words, how he remembered his sister singing to him before everything went wrong. Keanu had promised to help. And that meant more than just food and a warm bed. It meant finding Naomi. It meant giving Caleb a chance to have his family again. The next morning, Keanu met Olivia outside the shelter. His eyes were full of quiet determination. We need to find her, he said. Caleb deserves that much. Olivia didn't argue. She had seen too many families break apart. But she also knew Keanu wouldn't give up. I have a lead, she said, pulling out her phone. A friend from an outreach program saw a woman who looks like Naomi. She's been hanging around a rundown motel on the edge of the city. It's a long shot, but it's something. Keanu nodded. Then let's go. The drive to the motel felt slow, each mile stretching with anticipation. When they arrived, the place looked like it could fall apart at any moment. The paint was peeling, the windows were cracked, and the whole area felt sad. Olivia pointed to a door on the second floor. That's where she's been seen, room 12. Keanu took a deep breath, then climbed the rickety stairs with Olivia close behind. He knocked. The sound was loud in the quiet air. The door opened just a little. A pair of tired, hollow eyes peeked out. Naomi looked much older than she should have. Her face was thin. Her dark hair was messy and dull. What do you want? She asked, her voice rough and guarded. Keanu kept his voice calm and gentle. I'm here about Caleb, your son. Naomi's eyes widened. Then they narrowed. Her hand gripped the doorframe. Who are you? She asked. Some cop? A social worker? She glanced at Olivia, then back at him. I don't need your pity. I'm not here to judge you, Keanu said, taking a small step closer. I'm Keanu. I found Caleb yesterday. He's safe. He's warm. But he's waiting for you. He misses you, Naomi. Her breath caught for a second. Pain flickered in her eyes. But then her face hardened again. He's better off without me, she said. I'm a mess. I left him. What kind of mother does that? Keanu didn't flinch. He spoke softly. A mother who is hurting. Caleb told me about your husband. How he died. How everything fell apart after that. He told me you used to sew for him. Sing to him. He still loves you, Naomi. Even after everything. Naomi's lip trembled. She shook her head and tears spilled from her eyes. I can't, she whispered. I've messed up too much. I walked away because every time I looked at him, all I saw was how I failed. He deserves better. Keanu's voice was strong but kind. You're his mom, he said. He doesn't want someone else. He wants you. And I've seen what happens when people give up. Nothing changes. But if you fight for him, if you fight for yourself, it's not too late. Naomi stared at him. The walls around her were starting to crack. Why do you care? She whispered. You don't even know us. Keanu stopped for a moment, thinking about Naomi's question. It felt heavy, sinking deep inside him. I know what it's like to lose people, he said, his voice soft and serious. I know what it feels like when the world seems against you. But I have a chance to help Caleb not lose you. That's enough for me. His words hung in the air, honest and real. Naomi's shoulders dropped, like all the fight inside her was slipping away. Olivia stepped forward, her voice kind but strong. Naomi, we can help you. There's a place that can help you get better. Good people. A real chance to change things. She paused, then added, Caleb is waiting for you, but he needs you to be okay. Naomi wiped her face with a shaky hand, looking at the floor. I don't know if I can do it, she whispered. I tried before and it didn't work. Then try again, Keanu said gently. He leaned forward a little so she could see he meant every word. Not for me. Not for anyone else. For Caleb. He still holds on to that jacket you made him. One step at a time, Naomi. I'll be there. Olivia will too. The room went quiet. The only sound was Naomi's uneven breathing. Then slowly she nodded. Okay, she whispered. For him. Keanu felt a wave of relief, but he knew this was just the beginning. Naomi's eyes were still filled with doubt. Her hands still shook as she let them in. The room was a mess. Empty bottles, cigarette stubs, a life falling apart. But beneath all of that, Keanu saw a woman who used to be something more. The world had failed her just like it had failed Caleb. No safety net, no second chances, just a slow fall into darkness. But now there was a little bit of light. Sometimes, Keanu thought, all it takes is one person believing in you to help you come back. As Olivia made calls to set up Naomi's help, Keanu sat beside her, listening as she talked about the life she had lost. Tears rolled down her face and Keanu knew this was just the start. Love and hope could spark a fire. But keeping it alive? That was the real fight. Naomi's first week in rehab was tough. Her hands shook. She couldn't sleep. Her mind kept telling her she would fail again. But Keanu didn't let her go through it alone. Every few days he visited her in the center's plain, quiet room. He sat across from her, calm and steady, like a rock in the middle of a storm. "You're doing this for Caleb," he reminded her when she felt like giving up. "And for yourself." Meanwhile, Caleb stayed at a shelter, a safe place for kids. But he was restless. He wanted to believe his mom would get better, but his heart was afraid. Keanu visited Caleb too. He brought books, adventure stories, comics, anything to bring a little light back to the boy's tired eyes. One afternoon, they sat together on an old couch in the shelter's common room. "What's your favorite thing your mom ever made you?" Keanu asked, flipping through a worn-out copy of The Hobbit. Caleb thought for a moment, then said, "That jacket with the stars. She sewed it when I was little. She said it would keep me safe." He hesitated, then added, "I lost it a while back. Guess it didn't work." Keanu put the book down and looked at Caleb. "She's trying to come back to you, kid. It's not easy, but she's fighting." Caleb shrugged, unsure. What if she leaves again? The question hit Keanu like a punch. He had asked himself the same thing about people who left him before. "Then we'll figure it out," he said firmly. "But I've seen her eyes when she talks about you. She's not running this time." Caleb didn't answer, but he held onto the book a little tighter. Keanu knew that meant he was listening. At the rehab center, Naomi started to open up more. "I used to dream about having my own shop," she told Keanu one day. Her voice was quiet but full of something new, hope. "A little place where I could sew clothes. Maybe teach other moms how to make things for their kids. I was good at it, you know?" Keanu leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You are good at it," he said. "That doesn't go away. You could still make that dream come true." Naomi gave a small, sad laugh. "Who would trust me now?" Keanu didn't even need to think. "I would." Caleb would. Weeks passed. Naomi grew stronger. Her hands steadied. Her eyes looked clearer. Keanu saw it and he knew it was time. He and Olivia arranged a visit. Caleb would see his mom again. When the day came, Keanu picked Caleb up from the shelter. The boy fidgeted in the passenger seat as they drove. "Are you nervous?" Keanu asked. Caleb nodded, staring out the window. "What if she's mad at me?" Keanu shook his head. "She's not. She's been waiting for this just like you." Inside the center, Naomi stood in a small meeting room, twisting her hands together. She had put on a clean sweater, one of the few things she owned now. Her hair was pulled back, showing a face that looked younger, softer than before. Caleb stopped in the doorway. He grabbed Keanu's hand, holding on tight. "It's okay," Keanu whispered, kneeling beside him. "She's here because she loves you. She's been working hard to be the mom you need." Caleb took a shaky breath, then stepped forward. Naomi dropped to her knees, her face already wet with tears. "Caleb," she choked out, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I love you so much." For a second, Caleb just stood there, stiff with years of hurt. Then suddenly he ran forward, throwing his arms around her. "I missed you, Mom," he sobbed into her shoulder. Naomi held him tight, rocking him gently as tears streamed down her face. "I'll never leave you again," she whispered. "Never." Keanu stepped back, his throat tight, watching as they held on to each other. The room seemed smaller, quieter, just a mother and son trying to piece their lives back together. But even as Keanu's heart swelled, a shadow lingered in his mind. How many other moms and kids were out there, lost, with no one to help them? The system hadn't saved Naomi and Caleb. He had. With Olivia's help, they had made this happen. And that wasn't fair. It wasn't enough. Keanu clenched his fists, making a silent promise to himself. He would do more. Somehow. Later, Keanu worked with Olivia to rent a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just a simple, clean place with 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. He didn't tell Naomi yet. He wanted it to be ready when she finished her program. As he handed over the deposit, he thought about Caleb's jacket with the stars. About Naomi's dream of a shop. They deserved a fresh start. And Keanu would make sure they got it. "This isn't just about them," he told Olivia. "It's about showing what's possible." Naomi held Caleb's hand as they said goodbye for the day. Her smile was small but real. Keanu saw her and gave her a little nod like a promise. He knew their story was far from over. A month later, Naomi walked out of the rehab center. She stood tall, her eyes shining with new hope. Keanu had never seen her look this strong before. Caleb was waiting outside. He was so excited that he bounced on his heels. The moment he saw Naomi, he ran to her and hugged her tight. Keanu stood back, hands in his pockets, a small smile on his face. "Ready to see your new place?" he asked, holding up a set of keys. Naomi's mouth dropped open. Caleb's eyes got big. "What do you mean?" Naomi asked, shocked. Keanu just smiled and nodded toward the car. "Come on, you'll see." The apartment wasn't big or fancy. It was a small 2-bedroom place in a safe part of Los Angeles. But it was theirs. Naomi ran her fingers over the kitchen counter. Her voice shook. "Keanu, this is too much. I can't accept this." Keanu gently stopped her. "You can. It's not a gift. It's a start. You've earned it." Caleb ran from room to room laughing. His laughter filled the apartment, making it feel like home. Naomi didn't waste her chance. With Keanu's encouragement, she pulled out an old sewing machine she had saved from storage. She used to sew on better days. She started by fixing clothes for neighbors. Soon, more people came to her for help. One evening, Keanu brought pizza for Caleb. Naomi showed him a drawing of a little shop with a sign, "Naomi Stitches." "I want to teach other moms," she said. "Single moms like me who need a fresh start. Free lessons so they can stand on their own." Keanu put the pizza down, touched by her idea. "You're already doing it," he said, "turning your pain into something good." Naomi smiled, a real happy smile. She looked like the woman she used to be, the one Caleb remembered. With a small loan from Keanu and donations from kind locals, Naomi Stitches opened 3 months later. On the first day, 5 women came to learn. They were nervous but excited. Their kids played in the corner while Naomi taught them how to sew. Naomi felt alive again. She had a purpose. Caleb was doing great too. Back in school, he worked hard. His grades got better and better. One day, Keanu found him in the library reading a book about civil rights lawyers. "I want to be one," Caleb said. "I want to stop companies like the one that hurt my dad. I want to make them pay." Keanu's heart filled with pride. He knew it wouldn't be easy for Caleb, but he believed in him. "You will," Keanu said, "and I'll be here to cheer you on." But Keanu didn't stop at the apartment. Late at night, after Naomi and Caleb were asleep, he met with his friend Olivia and some other good people. These people had money and power, but most importantly, they had big hearts. Together, they started the Starry Threads Fund, named after Caleb's lost jacket. It was a secret project. No news, no cameras, just help. They sent money and supplies to shelters, rehab centers, and kids living on the streets. Keanu wrote the first check himself. It was a lot of money, but he never told anyone. Months passed and the fund grew. Naomi Stitches became more than just a shop. The moms Naomi trained started their own small businesses. They helped others, passing the kindness forward. Caleb kept doing well in school. His teachers were amazed by his hard work. Stories reached Keanu. A teenager found his lost dad. A woman left the streets because someone gave her a sewing kit and a bus pass. One night, Naomi and Caleb invited Keanu to dinner. They made spaghetti with homemade sauce. It tasted like family. "You didn't just save us," Naomi said, her eyes full of emotion. "You gave me my life back." Caleb, shy but honest, added, "Thanks, Keanu, for everything." Keanu waved it off, his voice a little rough. "You did the hard work. I just opened a door." But as he sat there watching them laugh, he felt warm inside. This wasn't just their story anymore. It was bigger. One act of kindness had started something big. It had helped people he'd never even met. Months later, a reporter heard about what Keanu had done. After an event, she stopped him and asked about it. "Everyone deserves a chance," Keanu said with a shrug. "I saw a kid who needed one. A mom who had lost hers. That's it." The reporter wanted more, but Keanu just walked away. He didn't care about the attention. Back home, he pinned a photo to his fridge. It was a picture of Naomi and Caleb standing in front of her shop, smiling. It reminded him of something important. Kindness spreads. Naomi and Caleb's life wasn't perfect. Money was still tight. Old wounds still hurt. But they were whole. And beyond them, the Starry Threads Fund kept growing, helping more and more people. Keanu walked outside, the city lights glowing around him. He knew one thing for sure. Change starts small, but it doesn't stay small. One person, one choice can change the world. Some people think only big companies or governments can fix problems. Maybe they should. But Keanu showed something different. If we all help when we can, if we believe in someone when no one else does, the world can change. It's not always easy. It's not always perfect. But it matters. If you like this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.